Crash here, and if you're a streamer using only one monitor, you're probably going, man, I wish I had a second, the third, or 20th monitor. Well, we've all been there, but the question is, do you have a performance trade-off by hooking more monitors up to your graphics card, to your computer? Let's find out. Tired of paying full price for games? Check out Green Man Gaming, where you can get codes for games on your PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Start saving now with the link below. Okay, so let's just dive right on into it. We're going to be testing with a synthetic benchmark. The benchmark we're going to be using is the Uni-Engine Superposition benchmark. We're going to be running it on 1080p medium and 1080p extreme settings. At those settings, we'll also be running it without OBS running and with a full stream going at 6,000 kilobits per second to Twitch. So we're going to see how it performs. Now, also keep in mind, I'm streaming using the X264 codec, which is very CPU intensive. I'm not using a hardware one. That's a separate part of your GPU. That's not the same part that's used for rendering games. The system I'm testing this on has a Ryzen 7 1700 at 3.6 GHz, an Asus ROG Strix GTX 1070 8OG, overclocked to 1925 MHz on the core and 8488 MHz on the memory, two 8GB sticks of Corsair Vengeance LPX overclocked to 2933 MHz, a Samsung 960 EVO M.2 SSD on the Gigabyte GA AB350 Gaming 3 motherboard. Man, that's a mouthful. So, first thing we have to do is we have to establish our baseline. We're doing that with one monitor without OBS streaming in the background. You can see we hit an average frames per second of 101.38, a minimum frames per second of 80.56, and a max GPU temp of 63 degrees on the medium settings. And on extreme, we hit 28.1 average frames per second, 23.18 minimum frames per second, and a maximum temperature of 64 degrees. As expected, once you fire up OBS and you start streaming, you do get a bit of a performance hit. We go down to 75.94 average frames per second on the medium settings, down to 50.87 on the minimum frames per second, but the temperature also drops as well. We'll get into that a little bit later. On the extreme settings, we're at 24.84 frames per second on the average, 20.27 minimum frames per second, and also we're down on the temperature, down to 62 on the GPU as well. Alright, now let's run these exact same tests again, but this time with two monitors, and you can see that there really isn't that much change. We'll do a little bit of a comparison, and you'll see that it's very minimal, almost no difference at all. So let's try it with three monitors now, and see if that breaks the system, or if it even makes a difference. And with the exact same test on three monitors, pretty much no difference. So it seems that with this setup anyways, it doesn't really make a difference if you have one, two, or three monitors. You're not really going to see a performance hit while streaming or while gaming. So looking at the benchmark scores without OBS running, you can see that there's almost no difference at all, within the margin of error anyways. But this is kind of weird. If you look at benchmark scores alone, you see that you start to lose a little bit of performance with each monitor that you add. Now this is still somewhat within the margin of error, but it's interesting to see this even though we didn't notice this in the average frames per second or the minimum frames per second earlier on. So back to the other question we had before, why did our GPU temperatures drop when we started streaming? Well, it's actually pretty simple if you think about it. Your case fans are generally tied to your motherboard, which runs on CPU temperature. So if you're streaming an X264, it loads up your CPU, increases your CPU temperature, and your case fans start to crank up. And that's why overall the case temperature dropped, dropping your GPU temperature. So, how many monitors do you run when you stream, when you game, or when you do spreadsheets? Let me know in the comments below. If this video made you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, go ahead and show that like button some love. Thanks for watching, and always remember, the key to happiness is